professional here at Golf House. So,
But last time we kind of started with how we got to where we got to a little bit, and that probably would be a good way to kick off again. So I'll let you go first, Gaylon, and kind of give us your story.
Sure. So I played college golf at Belmont, just down the road. Started here. Knew I wanted to get into the golf business, and pretty quickly knew there was a time when I was a decent player. So I knew love teaching. I love teaching, love taking lessons. So I kind of immediately knew I did not have a whole lot of interest in going into the operations side of golf. So I knew that this would be a great place to get started, because it was an interesting time. That was, so like I said, 2010, we were kind of starting to come out of the recession, but the conversation was very much golf is dying, right? There were clubs closing everywhere. Their initiation fees at private clubs were being wiped, delayed, whatever. Memberships were down. So clubs were just trying to create any kind of cash flow at all. So just trying to get some monthly dues in there and get people buying some F&B. But so I wasn't sure that was the right decision. But even at that time, this place had already established a pretty sizable junior program. So I knew that if I came here, would get at least teach a lot. So my first year, I think we taught about 150 to 200 clinics. Each of those would meet 3 or 4 times, so you can do the math there of almost 400 or 500 individual classes. We taught just about all of them. Was doing a Get Golf Ready class back then, which there's probably 2 people maybe in the room that remember Get Golf Ready, because that was something that the PGA of America did, trying to get people playing. It was a $99 class that met 5 times for an hour and a half, so dirt cheap just to get people in the game. So we're teaching those, and ran our overnight golf camp that we'd have 48 kids each week for 8 weeks that would stay here, and all those rooms down the hall from where we were earlier, those are all dorm rooms. Kids would sleep there all summer long. So that was what I did, and I think I gave 56 private lessons that year, but knew that, okay, this is a good spot, we'll stick with it. With all of those classes and teaching a lot, obviously a lot of people started asking, hey, I'd like to come spend a little more time with you, not with 11 other people. And so started getting more and more requests, and each year just kind of built up a little bit more of a little more sizable lesson database, and each of the last probably 10 years, probably anywhere from 11 to 1,200 lessons each year, plus 150 classes. For 10 years ran the Golf Academy, which was an overnight camp, and later on became a day camp format. And we still do those Get Golf Ready classes, just more of them. I think we had about a dozen sessions this year, so about 60 individual classes of those that were all full. So there's so each year just kind of pecked away at it and got a little bit busier and busier. So we were talking about earlier, I think Ben and I are kind of similar in this regard, in that there's not really a rhyme or reason to the people that we teach. I mean, I could very well start my day with a senior clinic, and then have a college player come in, and then an 8-year-old junior, and then we have a homeschool junior class, and then a beginner adult class that evening, and then stick around later and have another scratch player come in that evening's getting ready for the state am or something. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. I teach all day long. It's just every day looks a little bit different, because we do so many different programs here.
Yeah, and I'm not that much different. I started as an assistant. I just couldn't do it, and I'm so thankful that people are willing to do it, because it's not how I was built. So in 2 years into that, I was making $26,000 as an assistant, working way too many hours in the summer, and I told my club I wanted to be the DOI. I was 24 years old. I'd probably taken 3 total lessons in my life. So I'm the opposite, and I thought I was going to go teach the next Tiger Woods. And that year I made $27,000 teaching golf. Oh, I should have told you, our club did $4,000 the year before, so total. So I thought I was on the top of the world, but that's not enough money to live off of. Started working for a small little startup company out of Denmark called Trackman, and all of a sudden found myself in some places that I was smart enough to keep my mouth shut, sitting at tables with guys that were just phenomenal at what they do, from guys like Brian Manzella to Mike Bender to David Ledbetter to Henry Breton up in Canada. I mean, I sat and ask questions to Conrad Ray, who was at Stanford at the time, still is, but was at Stanford, and Henry Breton. We were talking about developing college players, and I would ask a question and just let them run. It was fascinating to watch those guys speak, and one thing led to another that got me to the Mike Bender Golf Academy. I ran his junior development program for 3.5 years. Walked in there, Mike dropped down to me. Actually, when I walked in, I said, "Excuse me, I need to meet Mr. Bender. I don't know what he looks like." They said, "Well, he's over there with the hat." I said, "Great." So I went over. I introduced myself. It's the first time I'd ever seen him in person. We had interviewed over the phone, and I ran his junior development program for 3.5 years, and it was the best time of my life. I loved it. I got to see how an expert does what he does. I said this to the group before. The two most amazing things about Mike Bender is not his teaching. He's a better person than he is teacher, and there's nothing he's not willing to do to make his academy better. There's many Monday mornings where we'd go out with screwdrivers and pop range balls out of the mud on the floor of the range. We painted fences together. I built a trench line once with him for irrigation. I built a couple plane boards over my time with him. But man, does that man work hard. That led me to an opportunity to come up here, and you know, I think one of the things that Gaylon and I probably share in common is it doesn't, you know, now we have, you know, Gaylon has this place that's beautiful and a great range, and that's obviously developed over the years, and I'm now at West Haven, which I'm very, very appreciative of. But I started teaching at Family Golf Center. If anyone knows that place, it's out in Antioch. The joke is, we're pretty sure those are cars backfiring, not gunshots. But if you go back, I don't know what year it was, 2016 maybe, it was the first time I was in Golf Digest. It says Ben Pellicani, Family Golf Center, Antioch, Tennessee. And I'm pretty proud of that. And so I say that because I think one of the things, if you want to get into the teaching world, is you got to be willing to teach anyone, anywhere, in any conditions, and never think too highly of yourself. You know, Gaylon, one of the things that have evolved, obviously, is places like this. And by the way, if you have questions, ask them, because we've already done this talk once, and I thought it went well the first time. Yeah, so I don't know what I said half the time, so I can't repeat it. So feel free to ask questions as you want. But as you've had places like this, and you said earlier that you talked a little bit about the evolution of this facility at least, but how has some of this helped you, or what new challenges, new things have you learned through the process of having to teach with technology, and in your case, you teach here most of the winter out of this space?
Sure. So I think fortunate. I'll let you know in a few years, a few decades. I feel fortunate that I started learning to play golf in pre-technology. I started when I was 9. I still have it at home, or my mom's house. Still have somewhere, there's a stack of old pictures and probably a few VHS tapes from my first lessons. So there was, I think he was using Gasp, if I remember, and it was a really grainy video. It was pretty terrible, but that was the extent of technology, at least for me at that point. So at the time, very much grew up playing and learning how to play in the pre-technology of, hey, just a little bit of video, but primarily field-based golf instruction. However, as I kind of started wrapping up my college career, that was a TrackMan was starting to have a little bit of presence at, but I wouldn't say it was real mainstream. I mean, everybody knew about it, but not many people owned them at the time. So at a little tail end of my college career, got a little bit of instruction using some technology, but have spent my entire career teaching the technology. So I think that has been valuable. Again, I think it has been valuable because it has allowed me to kind of be able to talk to players from both worlds, right? I think that it is a polarizing topic, right? When you start talking about launch monitors and really any technology, there's a segment of golfers that have never used it and they think it's terrible. It's going to be awful, right? It's way too much information. It's overwhelming. We're going to think too much when we're trying to play golf. But then there's also a segment of golfers that love it and don't ever want to hit another ball without it. So I think that the truth is really somewhere in the middle, right? And we as the teacher have to be able to balance what the student needs to know with the facts-based information that we have. And so that has very much evolved. I think my early instruction, even though we had some TrackMan, I didn't really want to teach with it at all. I mean, it was here, because that was not how I learned to play golf. I didn't really want to teach with it at all, in the least. But out of necessity during the winter, started spending a little bit more time with it, but started being able to explain to the students what information is valuable to them and how to communicate that. Because yeah, there's a lot of information up here. I mean, you can give them as much or as little as you want to, but started having to learn to have those conversations with the student of hey, this is, when you go to the doctor and they take an x-ray or you take an MRI, it's like they're not telling you to read it, right? Their job is to explain to you what you need to know based off of those results. That's my job. When you come in here, we'll get the information. That is for me, okay? If there's something that will be valuable for you as a feedback tool, then I'll show it to you. I'll explain it to you. I'm going to educate you as well. But I don't want you looking at every one of these parameters, every single shot you hit, okay? Most of the time, it's okay being up there. But every once in a while, there'll be a student they get a little bit obsessed with a number that is completely irrelevant to the conversation, and we'll just turn it off. But it is something that's, I think, has come a long way. Should I go ahead and tell my story about the junior?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great story.
So the kind of the case study, if you will, I was telling the last group about. There was a junior came to me. I think he was about 9 at the time. First time his dad would come in every week, and finally his dad was said, hey, can my son come with me? Yeah, sure, bring him on. Bring him next week. So it was, I hate to say this, but it was one of the most miserable golf lessons I've ever given. He hit the first 5 swings or so. I think he probably whiffed 4 of them and then shanked the 5th one. And so he was, that's fine. That part was fine, right? But his attitude toward that was awful. He made it very, very, very clear he did not want to be in that golf lesson. Started arguing with me, telling me that he didn't want to hear what I had to say, which is fine. My wife tells me the same thing all the time. And then he started arguing with his dad. His dad's telling him to be nice. He's smarting off to him, all this kind of stuff. Finally gets put in timeout. I said, cool, this is fun. The longest 30 minutes of my life. And I thought, surely he's not coming back next week. He did, and the next week. And there's not very many lessons that I see on my book. I'm like, oh God, here we go again. That was one. Within about 3 weeks, it became one of those. And I think the following week, I can't remember if it was getting to be winter time or if it was rain or whatever, but we ended up in here. And I was like, it's like, what am I going to do for 30 minutes inside? Like, he's not going to want to look at TrackMan numbers. He's not going to look at video. Let's just find something here to entertain him. So I turned on, if you're spending time on TrackMan, there's a bunch of games on there. There's one called Scrapyard. It's a junkyard full of cars, and you just hit golf balls at it, right? And they blow up when you hit them. That's it. We did that for about 25 minutes. I just sat down over in the corner. Doing good, bud. Keep at it. How you having fun? Yeah, this is great. Finally, I was like, would you like to, is there something I could do to help you, see if you can get a higher score next time? No, I'm good. Okay, cool. Have at it. Next week rolls in. I was like, well, that went faster than last time. At least he didn't yell at me. So like, let's just do it again. About 15 minutes in. Hey, you want to see if we can work on something to, maybe hit a few more cars, make a few more things blow up? Yeah, maybe so. So that actually opened the door to have a little bit of a conversation about at least some setup, right? Every week for the next probably 2 months, there was some involvement of that game during our lesson. It could be 73 degrees and sunny outside, and we were coming in here because we needed that game. But each week it started becoming just a little bit more golf instruction and a little bit less of the game because he was interested in getting better. We kind of fast forward that a little bit to sorry, Colin, I miss you. Didn't mean to offend you.
I've got a lesson.
He came in when he's not known. So fast forward to actually a couple years down the road. Last night he came in for a lesson with his dad, and he goes, "Hey, I'm proud for my middle school team in the spring." He's gotten significantly better. Actually enjoys golf and likes taking lessons now. He and his dad go play a time or 2 each week. And so, yeah, cool, that's great. So he goes, what do I need to do to get better? I want to make the team. So and he will, but he'll make the team without problem. But Let's try to play one or two on the team. So if you've not seen the Performance Center on TrackMan, it's fantastic. So we put up there, I said, hey, if you're a 10 handicap, you are going to be a fantastic middle school golfer. So we put a 10 handicap on there for strokes gained purposes. Set up distances between 50 and 120 yards, which is his sand wedge to his 6-iron, and let's hit a dozen shots and see how you do. And so it will actually categorize it into divisions and tell you what your strokes gained is relative to a 10 handicap. And so he was a little bit below in strokes gained. But he, at the same time, I told Ben, at the end of that lesson last night, he goes, hey, so as I'm looking at that, he goes, I'm not that far behind where my full shots are. He goes, but the two that I'm really struggling with, those are like these like half swings. I don't really know how to do that. He goes, next time, can you teach me how to hit those half shots? Yeah, cool. So absolutely. So if you think about it, pretty cool story to see a kid that goes from absolutely does not want to be here to actually asking how to hit distance wedges. Pretty fascinating. So I think if used correctly, it can do wonders. It can absolutely do wonders.
Yeah, and I found that the biggest way I've used it of late, and again, I've always joked no one's had a TrackMan longer than me, because I've had it since '08, is the idea of on-course management. I probably should have said this more tactfully in the group before, but if you are big in the golf statistics world, there's a gentleman named Scott Fawcett in Decade Golf, and him and I have had a lot of conversations, and if you know Scott, Scott will not agree to disagree. He will tell you you're wrong, and I will agree to disagree. But what I have found, and one thing, this is just something kind of maybe to spark your interest a little bit on how you can think outside the box with technology. One of the things that's really hard to do now is to get on a golf course, and then ultimately, how do players react to different targets? So what's the difference between a front right pin and a front left pin? And is that a different shot shape? Is that a different club selection? How do you know what shot to execute? I figured out there's probably about 130 odd options that you have to understand your dispersion patterns on. But the reality is with players, like if it's front right versus front left, how do you have that conversation? Well, it used to be you'd go out, you drop 5 balls, you hit, you walk up, it takes a long time to do that. On TrackMan now, we can just put it up, and we can learn a lot about players' tendencies, how to talk about target selection, and just maybe fast forward through how to do some course management stuff, because I do think it's the biggest challenge that golf instructors have today is how do we get on a golf course. I'm fortunate, I have a great club that will allow me to go on the golf course, but we have a lot of rounds. West Haven's no different than probably a lot of places you're at. They're getting 200 rounds a day. So unless you have the 9 a.m. lesson where I can go on the backside in between the mowers and the first group out and hope that open twosome doesn't just fly, so I have to work around them, it's hard to get on a golf course now. And I do think technology can help bridge that gap a little bit. Like Gaylon said, golf instruction is way different. And I think this generation of golfers is amazing. I think they're really, really good at golf. I think they really struggle on how to score. So some of the things we're having to teach our kids is different than what we had to be taught. Whereas most of us learned how to score first and learn technique second. This generation for sure is better technically than we ever were. Gosh, they swing so much faster than all of us. But the reality is they struggle to score. And so there's an inherent challenge now with golf instructors on what do we do to get our kids to figure out how to score better. And you can leverage technology. So if you have a club or a facility that has a TrackMan, play around with it. Figure out ways you can do it. And like him, I teach some young kids, and I agree. They love hitting balls on track. They would much rather do that and just see it on a screen. Now we hit balls onto the range and then it gets posted on a screen. But they love it. It keeps them engaged, and if you can find kids and keep them engaged, it's pretty neat. When are we supposed to be done? Because I had no idea.
Probably 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
15, yeah.
Well, again, if you ever have questions, put your hand up. We're way better at answering questions.
Can we ask the room, how many of you guys in here right now know that teaching is the path that you guys want to choose? Because I mean, obviously that was something you guys both decided fairly on. You already know that?
I just wasn't very good in the shop.
Oh, yeah.
That was more out of necessity.
But how many of you that want to still actively teach as part of your job?
I mean, I feel like my job is transitioning more into teaching.
Okay.
Like I've kind of taken over all of our player development, so that's that, and like Monday outings are pretty much 99.9% of my job.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so I think, because I think we can spend more time on this than we did last time, is kind of like one of the things I would tell people if you're going to get in the teaching world. I think it ended up being four things. It was three, and then I think I added one. Number one is learn a system. Just pick one. There's a lot of good ones. If you think stack and tilt's right, great, go learn it. Go be an expert at it. If you think Genghis is right, go do that. If you think Ledbetter is right, or Harmon, or Bender, or whoever, go learn a system. Then spend every year after you become an expert at that system learning somebody else's system and figuring out why it works. Because it does. That's the reason when they have a job and they have good players playing good golf doing it. And then figure out what you want to use and don't use from it. I've been doing that pretty much every year of my life. I try to go find someone that I disagree with, and I go figure out why, if I had to make the argument of why they're right. And then I figure out if I want to use any of it. Because there will always be somebody at some point that you have to use some variation that you heard from somebody else. So that's the number one thing. Number two is own your niche. It's okay. I think the idea that we have to teach tour players or we have to teach the elite players, if you're really good, like now I have 4 daughters at home. My oldest is 10. I've started to teach a lot of 10-year-old girls. I say that, it's 4. But I think 4 10-year-old golfers in Franklin, Nashville is probably a lot. Be okay with it. It's okay. It's great that you're good at a category, and just go be excellent at that category. But like Gaylon said, constantly be going and making sure you're open to other, because the way I teach these 10-year-old girls is different than if I teach a mini tour pro. But maybe there's something I said to her that will actually resonate better when I speak to a better player later. And one of the things I would say is be like Mr. Bender. Be a better person than you are a teacher, and you're never too good to do anything. I was somewhere, and someone came to shadow me one day, and I got there, and I said, "You gotta give me a second. I gotta vacuum my bay." And they said, "Oh, you still vacuum your bay?" I said, "I do it every morning." I know Mr. Coffin over there would rather me do it at night, but it's been a long day, and I'm gonna do it every morning. But every morning, I do it. I make sure our range is ready to go. I make sure we have balls. I sand the divots out in front of my bay 95% of the time. The reality is, you're never too good to do anything. Like I said, maybe it's just because I started teaching golf at Family Golf Center next to the go-kart track and the putt-putt place. But what was the other one? I had another good one earlier. Oh yeah, what? Well, Brooks isn't here to challenge me. He wanted to know. I was ready to fight. But know what your negotiables and non-negotiables are, and be okay saying that this is what I believe. If someone says I believe this, say, okay, you don't have to pay for this lesson. I'll give you 3 names that I think will do that for you. It's okay to be convicted and own your negotiables. It's okay. Mine are pretty simple. Like I said, I believe in how you should release the club. I believe how the club should move in transition. Everything else is to make those 2 things happen. If someone wants to release a club differently than what I believe is the way they'll provide them the best opportunity to be the best version of themselves, that's okay. I have a list of instructors that might believe in what they believe, and I'll pass them off. That's okay. I know Gaylon said earlier that he had, not every student's going to be a perfect fit for you, and I think That's right. And so be okay with that, and be convicted. You don't have to teach everybody. I want to teach everybody. Don't get me wrong. Every teacher has an ego. We want to teach everybody. But it's okay if they don't believe in what you believe. Don't change who you are. Have your convictions. Have your negotiables and non-negotiables. And own to that. Oh, and I remember the last thing. My one bit of advice for those who probably don't teach a ton. With about 5 minutes left, 5 minutes left in your lesson, tell them to hit 2 more shots. Always 2. Because if the first one's really good, you can say great, and then move to step 2. Yeah. 2 always gives them a little defense, like it's not like, oh, hit 1 more shot. It's like, oh, okay, 2 more shots. And then walk over, grab the club out of their hands, and say, step back there real quick, let's review. Because that's the only way you can get out of a lesson. It's really hard to get out of a lesson for new instructors. And so it's just my little bit of advice. I spent many a year not being good at it. It's what I do. If you're around me at about the 55-minute mark, because I do all hour lessons, I'll say, go ahead and hit 2 more, unless I know the guys asked a lot of questions, then it's gonna be at like 53. But, and then take their club. Because trust me, they can't hit any more golf shots than you take your club. So those are kind of my little tidbits.
Yeah. So I'll segue off that one. I'll try to do it really fast. First off, I probably down to what, 3 minutes?
Yep.
So kind of segueing off what Ben just said. One would be that the TV was there before the hitting bay, so I know you can't see all of it. Has everybody seen this before? Those 4 stages of skill progression. So everybody's going to start day 1 in unconscious incompetence. In other words, they don't know what they don't know. Right? They might think they know something, but they don't know why they hit bad shots necessarily. So, so the second they have some awareness of what that is, suddenly they move into conscious incompetence. Just like me, if I try to play a guitar, right? It sounds awful, and I know it's not right, right? But it's still my attempt at it. So the second you make the student aware, that's where they're looking at. Okay. Our goal is to get them from there into conscious competence. In other words, they can do it correctly, they can move correctly, but they have to think a lot about it. Right? One of my biggest pet peeves when somebody hits a bad shot is I'm thinking too much about it. No, you're not. No, you're not. You didn't do it correctly. You weren't thinking enough. So we have to be able to get the student to move correctly. Maybe that means dialing it back to 20-30% speed swings. Okay. Obviously, that's what our training aids are for. That's what our drills are for. Is to be able to make them move the way that they are supposed to. It requires thinking. But the goal is to get just like a tour player on the 72nd hole at the U.S. Open. We want to get moved to unconscious competence. In other words, it just happens, right? What we deem as muscle memory. So we need to understand how to get the student to do that. To Ben's point, if they hit the last couple of shots bad, that's fine. I'll tell them, like, you're not supposed to hit them good yet. You've hit 50 balls. Does anybody know how many swings it takes to own your golf, to own a change? In other words, be able to go out on the golf course, execute it without a whole lot of thought. How many? 10,000 swings. Ben said 500 to be able to execute it correctly, I believe. Proficient. Thank you. Better words, better vocabulary. I'm from Hickman County. But 10,000 to be able to own it. Okay. So be able to get the student to move correctly. Second one, I would say, a piece of advice would be become really good at building relationships. I think acquiring golf swing knowledge is relatively easy this day and age, right? There's a lot of teachers that are willing to have conversations with you, open their door to you, explain things. Lots of information out there on the internet. Plenty of books, certainly. So instruction knowledge is easy to acquire. The hardest part is learning how to build those relationships with people. You cannot get anybody to do anything unless they trust you. You have to be able to build that relationship in order for them to trust what you are asking them to do. Okay. As I mentioned, not everybody's going to be the best fit for you, but I think I'm pretty good at getting 95% of the people that come in to be a good fit. So you have to be able to learn how to communicate with those people. Honestly, it's something I was terrible at early on. I'm the guy that's generally in the back of the classroom sitting on my hands, and I don't really particularly love talking to a whole lot of people and feel like I'm going to make a fool out of myself. But you get better at it. And then the third one, my last piece of advice, I still do a whole lot of it, but the first probably 7 or 8 years of my career was teaching about 500 clinics a year. Okay, Each of those would have 12 kids in it, or sometimes adults, but you get really good at learning how to teach somebody really fast. And so when you've got 12 people standing in front of you, you want to have a best way and a second best way and a third best way to be able to communicate your message. Something as simple as how to hold a club. If you've got 12 10-year-olds in front of you and you want to teach them how to grip the club, there's probably one way that 8 to 10 of them are gonna do it correctly immediately. But you're gonna need your second and your third best way when you start working your way down the line really fast to get those other couple of kids to hold the club correctly. So, and you want to have that with every single thing you do. Okay, there's my 3. So, real quick, I think we're out of time. Any thoughts, questions, anything you want to throw at us real quickly before we head back down?
I just have one question for you guys. Have you guys done much adaptive golf as far as lessons for adaptive golf, things like that? Either physical or mental?
A little.
Okay. And
Yeah.
the second piece of that would have been, have you used TrackMan, like somebody in a wheelchair trying to increase
Yeah,
use the
so
numbers to increase
when I
speed,
first started
that kind of
teaching,
thing?
there was an organization called Fleet Military Golf out of Walter Reed Hospital, and I used to do clinics with them. So recently, not so much, but I have done through them, and actually that was probably one of the biggest learning moments of my career about how to teach someone if they don't have an arm or they can't literally move. What are you going to teach them? So yes, and it was super impactful for me to grow as a teacher. I'm really glad I did it. It's kind of like being a middle school and high school coach. I would really encourage anyone who wants to teach to go be it, because then you figure out what you really want to care about. So, but yes, I would encourage anyone who wants to teach to at least do that through a season of life, just to learn some things, mostly about yourself.
What was the name of that place?
Oh gosh, I forgot what range, the only golf range in,
No,
but
I mean
Salute
the name of the
Salute Military Golf.
Okay. Is it still around?
Yeah, Jim Estes is still running it for all I know.
And physics is physics, and so I mean, you take your golf swing knowledge and understanding ball flight laws and why the golf ball behaves the way it is, and it can be a fun experience trying to figure out how to make something work. I've got a young man that I teach high school age that has actually won the I think Michigan State Junior Adaptive Open, probably the wrong order of words there. And a couple other big tournaments this summer. And I told him the first time I taught him, I said, I'm going to learn as much from you as you do from me. I was like, I understand why the golf ball goes where it does, but I need you to tell me what's feasible and what's not. When I ask you to do something, I need you to be honest with me, and we'll figure this out.
Yeah, I taught the U.S. National Blind Champion. He lives in Brentwood. That was. Told him I was going to take a video. He goes, I can't see it. I said, it's for me. Calm down.
Have you found that some of that translates to like your older members at your clubs that maybe have?
I thought you meant my tour
physically
players.
can't-
Yes, my tour players. No, I'm serious. Like the things you learn. That I think that we had this conversation a lot more before earlier. Is like the reason all these pockets matter. I gave a lesson, and I'll tell a quick story. 75-year-old Mr. Tucker. He's great. He took 34 lessons this year. He currently has had kidney surgery, so he's on the not. So he basically took a lesson every week. We spent 4 weeks and never hit a golf ball. You want to talk about learning how to teach? Well, no, he just really had to get that grip right, and then you'd get tired. And then we talk about grandkids, and then like it's just part of the art of teaching. But that working with Mr. Tucker has made me a better teacher for when a player calls me. I'm more convicted because I basically got to practice on Mr. Tucker. I got to deep dive on every segment. We were doing the takeaway for like a month. Never hit a ball, just moved it like 6 inches. But man, he loved his lessons, and it's a skill. It's not. I'm not saying I'm great at it always, but
I'm not great at it. I had a kid like that. A whole hour of, is my takeaway right? Is my takeaway right? Is my takeaway right? I said, you need to go see somebody else. I lost my patience.
yeah. Awesome. What's next for them, Chris?
So we're gonna adjourn